Bonjour, keep looking up podcast listeners. I hope your week is off to a great start. I am so sorry about the delay. I have been traveling internationally. If you've been following me on Instagram, you've seen what I've been up to, but we had some technical difficulties that were beyond my control, but we've got it all figured out now. Just in time to intro you to one of my favorite people, Miss Kelsey Cameron. I got the opportunity of meeting earlier this year when I got to judge the Miss Texas International pageant. And if y'all know me, I love to judge anything where I can give not judge in a bad way, but give my critique in a positive way. So I was so excited to do this with Miss Texas International. And the impact that the women had on me was very, very big. And when I met Kelsey, it just totally magnified everything. She has been through a lot, and she still has a smile on her face and truly just spreads sunshine wherever she goes. And I want to take just a little bit of that positivity into my own life. So I think you guys will be able to relate to her story and just take some tips on her braveness. And she's really making an impact locally and in the state of Texas, and I'm just obsessed with her, and I think you guys will be too. So please give a warm welcome to Kelsey Cameron.
Okay, guys, so a couple months ago, I was approached by my friend Joyce Morrison in Dallas. She puts on the International Texas Pageant, and when she first reached out to me, she asked me to be a judge, and I have had an interesting history with pageants. I grew up doing theater, so a lot of the musical theater girls had talent, so they would do pageants for scholarship money, and I always thought it was so wonderful. And then actually Kelsey, I don't know if you know this, my grand little was Miss Louisiana, and she was, I think, third or fourth runner-up in Miss America a few years ago. So I've always had amazing women around me doing pageants, and I am not one of those people that thought that they're antiquated. I think they're amazing. But now in 2022, it's kind of interesting to hear people's mindset on pageants and how much they've changed. And actually sitting in one completely changed my perspective on it. But the shining light of this whole opportunity, I could talk about the feminism of pageants and all that, but for hours. But the highlight was meeting the winner who we're talking to right now, Kelsey Cameron. And I felt an instant connection with her, and there were so many incredible women. It was really hard to stand out, and Kelsey still just completely, it stood out to me. And it wasn't her, she's the most beautiful woman in the room, and she takes your breath away. But what really struck me was her vulnerability and her ability to share what she's going through. And to me, it gives me chills just thinking about it right now, but just being so dedicated to her story and to sharing her story, I think, is the most beautiful thing about her. So I just wanted to give you kudos on that, but wanted to give a little history. And if you're watching, I hope you're listening to the audio, but I hope you're also watching along, because Kelsey is stunning. She's sitting here wearing her crown. She looks so beautiful.
Oh, you're making me blush.
Kelsey, welcome to the show. Sorry for my diatribe. I just had to get it all in before I started talking to you. I just think you're just amazing. So can't wait.
Oh, I think you're amazing. Thank you so much for that intro and the kind words. And you were my highlight too. It was just such a pleasure to meet you. And when you asked me to be on this podcast, I was so excited. So I'm really excited to be here and glad that the day has finally come where we get to sit down and chat.
It's so great. And I think the reason why we got along so well is the Taurus Cancer synergy. Are you into astrology at all?
Love astrology, but I'm really well versed in Cancer. So I'm a Cancer, but I don't know too much about Taurus, but I can already tell it's my new favorite sign.
Yes, you need to always seek out Taurus. Taurus and Cancer are besties, and Cancer is a little bit more emotional. Taurus is emotional. We just don't show it as much. So we like being around Cancers because they actually show their emotions, where we have a hard time doing that sometimes.
Sometimes too much, but it's okay. We find a balance.
Exactly. And I think the biggest thing with Taurus and Cancer is we love to be comfortable, and we love having people in our home. Do you like having people entertaining, like feeding people, having people over to your house, or going to hang out with people like that?
Oh my gosh, yes. I am incredibly social. I love to book up my calendar and always be around friends and try to keep a really positive support group around me at all times. And definitely always cozy in my home. I have 2 cats and a brand new puppy. So I love having people over to play with them and just being home with them. So love being out, but also am a little bit of a homebody too.
Yeah, that's that. I like that. Give me the candles and my dog. We're all good.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to go back and give my listeners a little history of where you're from, how you grew up. So you lived in Sacramento, California until
Yes.
you were a freshman in high school. Is that right? Around 14?
Sophomore in high school. Yep.
Okay. And so what prompted your parents to move you from Texas to California to Texas?
Yeah. So my dad is a physician, and just to be super transparent, he was sick of paying state tax. So it was like nothing too exciting. And he thought it would be a great opportunity to move to Texas and have a little money in his pocket and give us some more opportunities. And I'm so thankful that he brought us here. This has just been the most incredible state for me to flourish in as an adult, but it was still
like
fun.
Texan.
Yeah. Yep. I'm a proud Texan now. It's been 11 years. So
yeah, good.
Mm-hmm.
And from there you moved to Prosper, and I'll just inform my listeners of can you talk about your platform so that we can go back to your history and kind of share the whole story? So when we're sitting down as a judge, also I was in over my head. I thought it was going to be a panel. Someone would come up, each judge would ask a question, and then they'd leave. I didn't know it was individual interviews. So I was given a booklet that I had to read over with everyone's information in it, what their platform was. And why I thought this pageant was so great is the philanthropy, I feel like, is the biggest part of this pageant in the interview. And Kelsey was so transparent in her one sheet about where she had come from. I was taken aback immediately on how open you were off the bat. So Kelsey's very comfortable about talking with it. And I want to talk about your platform and why and all that. So can you tell us about your family dynamic and what
Yeah, you got it. Let me start with my platform. So it's called Hope in the Darkness. So it's leading those with mental illness into recovery. I have a specific focus on suicide prevention and also eating disorder recovery. And why this is so close to my heart was because growing up, my mom was severely depressed and suicidal. In my senior year of college, she had a major stroke. And following that stroke, she was in a care facility and life had just become so hopeless, and her mental illness was exacerbated at that point. And when I went to visit her, she actually attempted death by suicide in front of me. And it's crazy to see someone get to that point. You know, I heard her talking about it her whole life. She was also addicted to drugs and alcohol, just had a really hard life, right? And battle of mental illness. But to see it get to that point was just, wow, eye-opening, right? And following that traumatic event, she did survive the incident, but she has to reside in permanent care now, and she'll never be the same. She has brain damage. She's it's hard because I had to grieve a mom, yet she's still earthside, right? So
right.
It was a hard balance. So I actually went into treatment for PTSD and anxiety and depression following that. That was my senior year of college. So much was going on, and I was excited to start a new life, but also I'm grieving this mom. And so following that recovery, I realized how incredible life can be once you deal with those hard things. So you deal with your mental health struggles. And that is when I launched my involvement in mental health organizations and affecting change.
It's incredible. And it's at such a young age to go through something like that. And I know you even went to high school at the age of 16 to get out of the house, right?
Yep.
College. Yeah.
Yeah, life was hard. So my dad and my mom split up when I was 6 years old. And, I'm really close with my dad still, but he was a doctor. He, couldn't be my sole, guardian. So growing up with my mom, it was just so hard. And anyone on here who has a parent with mental illness, when you add on addiction to drugs and alcohol with that, it's a really hard place for a child to grow up. You know,
Yeah.
you don't know that things aren't normal. So yeah, I taught myself 2 years in one. My junior year, I took a full other year class load, graduated at 16 years old, went straight to Texas Tech University to get away from kind of that toxicity that was around me.
Mhm.
And that's really when my life started to flourish. And I
Are
could be
you an only child, Kelsey?
no. So I have a sister on my mom's side, and then I have two brothers on my dad's side.
Okay, but you're the only child of both of your
Oh,
parents?
yes.
Okay.
So, and they're all older. So, although I have the amazing relationships with my siblings, I also got kind of an only child experience at the same time, in the worst way, because when my sister left, it was just me and my mom at that point.
Right. I can relate as an only child and losing a parent, especially. It can feel so alienating. So I'm so glad that you were able to get yourself out of that situation. A lot of 16-year-olds wouldn't have been able to have the wherewithal to know that they needed to get out. What was that driving force behind you that made you comfortable enough to leave?
Yeah, I think it was survival mode,
Yeah.
right? All I knew was that I was miserable and I didn't like where I was. And I am someone who will fight for happiness and will fight for herself. My mom kind of taught me everything not to do. So I learned lessons in reverse. I
Right.
never had an example of what I should be or what woman I should be. I knew what woman I didn't want to be. And I wanted the opportunity to go out and find who that woman was and to make myself proud.
And so many women, she's amazing. I mean, so many people would have also turned to drugs and alcohol and continued the cycle. And that is the story you hear over and over and over, which is why your story is rare, because so many people don't have the tools as well and the brains and the heart to get themselves out of this situation, because they just kind of fall subject to their surroundings. So that's even more kudos to you for pulling yourself, because you're comfortable in that situation, but you're also miserable. So I applaud you for knowing you had to get yourself out of that situation and not falling into the norm, because
There's two components to that. So there's that's kind of why my platform's called Hope in the Darkness. So I want to encourage, specifically, I teach youth this, but also everyone, that no matter what you're going through in life, your darkest moments, there is always hope in that darkness. There's always more strength in you than you even know. And I now go into schools and educate youth on resilience training, specifically that. So it's a course called Bounce Back, or a presentation called Bounce Back, where I teach these kids, what is resilience? Why is it important? Because when these hard times hit you, the only way to not revert to, drugs and alcohol and going down the wrong path and mental illness is having that resilience. And sometimes it can be really hard to learn.
So what are you teaching these kids? I need to take some notes on how to be resilient.
Oh gosh, it's kind of hard. I mean, it's I can kind of show you the deck, but it's really just going into like three main components. Just your mindset, realizing when certain things happen, how you react to it, and looking at it from a positive standpoint rather than, oh my gosh, I got an F on this test, so I'm stupid and I'm never going to learn math. Math isn't for me. Saying, I got an F on this. Well, I'm going to encourage myself to work harder so that I can come back next year and be the best in my math class. Just like little things.
Positive mindset. Yeah. And reframing.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I just have so many questions.
Yeah.
So great. Okay, so with something that is fascinating to me about you and about people who have been through something and that's kind of their platform, is standing and talking about their trauma kind of and what they've been through. How do you do that every day? I know when I have to I tell my story a lot, and I feel like sometimes I get in a loop of, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me. And I know you feel the same way. You are not your story, right? You are not your past. You're not your mom. You are the woman that you become. And I think, at least I feel like sometimes we go through things so that it's a learning lesson and that we can share what we've learned with others, which is exactly what you're doing. But how do you not get story fatigue? How do you not get super emotional I would imagine it would be very emotional coming and talking about this day in and day out, and that's part of your platform. So how do you do that and preserve your emotions and preserve yourself?
That's such a good question. So, a couple stages of this. So, first, obviously, I recommend therapy for anyone who's been through a traumatic event, or maybe just everyone in general. Like having, yes, and talking through that story with my therapist, getting comfortable with it, coming to terms and forgiveness for what I went through has helped me talk about it. And then this is going to sound so strange, but talking to strangers about it first was easier for me than people.
I can see that. Yeah.
So I got with the National Alliance on Mental Illness 4 years ago, and I was a young adult speaker for their Ending the Silence. So I would go into schools, sometimes the entire school in an auditorium, and I would share my like deep, detailed story.
Right.
And I got comfortable sharing it. That was so hard at first. And then I just worked on, a shorter version and adding in positivity. I'm so positive. So I would say, this happened to me, but because of it, I turned my pain into power and purpose. And now I'm changing lives to help no one have to go through what my mom and I went through.
Right. Right.
Kind of the evolution.
Oh yeah. Do you feel like you can be, how do you navigate feeling like you are your story? I know sometimes I can, if you're reiterating the same thing every day, you kind of want to move forward, right? But you have to keep talking about it. How do you navigate that too?
Oh my gosh, you're hitting on like such amazing points, Caroline. It's
Because
crazy.
I see so much of me and you. I think I haven't been through a lot of the same, but I mean, I just see a lot, and it's questions that are on my heart, really, so I can take your advice, because I think you're incredible.
Oh, I think you're incredible.
I need help navigating this kind of stuff too. And I know so many young women who, especially with social media now, everyone has a platform, so a lot of people have a lot to say. And I know a lot of women can feel whether it's a tragic narrative or it's a narrative that I'm single or a narrative that I won't get the job I want. How do you kind of get out of that and focus on moving forward?
Yeah. So, at the beginning, when I was doing the young adult speaker presentations with the detailed story, I started to get to the point where I was kind of reliving my trauma too much.
Right.
And I wanted to get into like motivational speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I started doing the educational presentations. And now I'm doing like big speeches. I'm speaking at the UT Dallas Out of the Darkness Suicide Prevention Walk at the end of this month. And I'm spreading hope, right? So I'm making a difference and changing it into positivity. And I think how I changed, I didn't let my story be me. I used to be scared, especially with dating, actually. I never scared my story because I thought that they would think I was like crazy, like my mom. Right. And that you didn't come from a good family. And so you don't know what like relationships are like. And I realized, no, I'm the woman I am today, and I'm going to be an amazing mom and person and wife because I went through these things. Yeah. And I'm better because of it. And once I turned my mindset that way, and also realized if someone's going to judge me for that, then I don't want them in my life anyway.
100%. And that's the moral of the story.
Yes. Yep. You got to get really comfortable with yourself to get to that point. But once you do, it's like revitalizing.
It's liberating. And I know the older you get, I've got about 5 years on you, but I know the older you get and the more comfortable you become with yourself, you'll see that it shapes you in such a different way too. So I'm excited to see how you can continue to take this and just make the best out of it.
Thanks.
Okay. So let's talk about, can we talk about suicide a little bit more, and then we can move on to talking about how amazing you are. I have never shared my story publicly, but I have my suicide affected my family. My cousin committed suicide when I was in high school, and I had another friend, a close friend, who committed suicide. And I've never experienced such a stigma like I have with this before. And the way that people don't want to talk about it and don't want to dwell on it, AKA not talk about it, was just really interesting to me, especially in a family dynamic where you did lose someone and you do want to talk about it. And I feel like, do you feel the same, where they shouldn't be judged? The worst decision of their life is not how they should always be remembered, right?
Oh my gosh, of course not. I'm so sorry for your losses. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And it's something that needs to be talked about. And that's not who they are. It Suicide comes from depression, which is a medical condition that's affecting the mind. They only did that because they felt like completely hopeless, that that was the only way, that their mind was thinking that, even if they have the whole world in front of them. Even think about Kate Spade, who had all the millions in the world, yet her brain had a disease and she couldn't get beyond that. And we should help and appreciate those people for the wonderful women or men that they were, and also try to learn from that and help others get through those pain. Suicide isn't going to go away if we just stop talking about it. It's going to get less and less the more and more we talk about it, and the more comfortable people feel like they can go and get help.
Right. Right. What would you tell my listeners if they were experiencing something like that, on how to kind of course correct? Because I know there's a lot of people that do want to talk about it in the family, and it's really hard to communicate with the other family members who aren't open. What advice would you give them on how to start those conversations and what that would look like?
I think for the people who are uncomfortable to talk about it, the family members, it's education. Right. And so my dad was one who didn't like to talk about mental illness. And I would tell him, some of my struggles. He was like, you're not, you're fine. You're perfect. I'm like, no, I'm not. So I started to take him to the Grant Halliburton Foundation events and talk to him about statistics, even about other people that are going through this, and examples, and getting him like slowly introduced to talking about it and being more comfortable. But sometimes it takes a long time, and people unfortunately still have that stigmatism.
Yeah, it's jarring. And I think especially with how much suicide there's been the last few years with COVID, and I've just seen it way more. And I think you're right. I think education is probably the best way. It can be such a tricky subject. And I just feel like those people shouldn't be judged for, again, like I'm saying, like the biggest mistake of their life. So I think it's a beautiful thing that you're so open about it and talking, and that will just release the stigma just by being upfront. So I think that's half the battle, is just being open to talking about it.
Yeah. And I want to put this out to your listeners too. This is the most staggering stat that I've heard is, suicide is the second leading cause of death in youth ages 10 to 24. The second leading cause of why young people are dying. And then people want to ignore it and act like we don't have a problem.
Right.
And the biggest misconceived notion is that suicide is selfish. It is not. It's a horrible mistake that they made, but they felt like they had no other option, and that they really felt like they were a burden and that they'd be better off, dead. But it's not the case. And the more knowledge that we can get and help for these individuals, the big difference that we'll see in our community.
So maybe the lesson is for maybe the parents that are listening to this podcast, since it is such a young statistic. I think a lot of that is not having conversations, or conversations not being had in the home and being open. And I know you shared with me before that you would go home to your dad every other weekend and he had no idea what you were dealing with.
Never.
But there was no communication between you on what you were experiencing at home.
Sometimes don't burden their parents if there's turmoil and things happening at home, and if there's something going on with them, they don't want to put it on your plate. That's exactly why I never said anything. I never got help. And I've also battled an eating disorder for almost 20 years of my life.
Yeah,
and I never told anyone about it. Wow. I didn't want to burden them, and I didn't want to get help. And I think parents need to ask their kids more. There's a tool called ESP ESP, emotional set point. Just checking in with your kids every morning. How are you feeling today? What's your ESP, 1 to 10 being the most amazing in the world?
Oh, I like that. That's great. Those are great little check-ins.
And then asking at the end of the day, and maybe they went from a 9 to a 2, and asking what happened with you today.
I really like that. Okay. See, we're getting tips and tools here. So you graduated college with a 4.0, even though you were No.
I got a 4.0 my last 4 semesters of college. So I graduated with a 3.7. Just
Oh no, not a 3.7.
I'll take the 4.0. We can go with
Okay.
that.
Kelsey, if someone said to me, you made a 4.0 and I made a 3.7, I'd be like, yes, I made a 4.0. So you take that 4.0.
Round up, right?
Yes. So just talking about your resilience, I mean, you graduated so quickly. And then from then you launched your style business. Also, you've been working on that. Are you still doing that at all?
I am. Yes, I'm doing it on the side now. So I worked for a company called Trunk Club after college for nearly 4 years. And then Nordstrom acquired them, decided to, shut down our clubhouses. I did high-end personal styling for people in Dallas. And they decided they wanted to change the vision of the whole company. And I said, you know what, this is my time. I love business. I had a degree in fashion business. I am going to launch my own company. And so I do high-end custom clothing, like suits, sport coat, shirts for men. And then I do high-end personal styling for women. But I launched 1 week before COVID hit.
Oh my God.
I had 20 appointments in my first month scheduled, 20. And they were all canceled. And then all my clients were like, I love you, Kelsey, but I'm wearing sweatpants every day. I don't need clothes. So I hung on for a year, and then I got into the software space, which I'm like a nerd at heart, and I had no idea. I knew I was a business nerd, but now I'm like a business tech nerd, which is even better. And I still do my fashion on the side. So I do a few appointments a month as well.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Can you tell me how you got into pageants? I don't think I know any of this. I need to know how you became Miss Texas International.
Yes. It's funny. People always ask me, were you doing pageants since you were little? I was like, absolutely not. Growing up, that was not what we could put money into with, my mom, the situation. And then when I got a little older and I was involved in the mental health organizations, I was trying to find a way to really elevate my voice. And at the time I heard of the pageant, I had also just gone through a really hard breakup with someone I dated for almost 3 years. And it was sudden, and I was just feeling really down on myself, but I was doing all these amazing things with, the foundations and nonprofits. And I wanted to put my focus on that. And so then the opportunity arose, and someone suggested that I try this pageant, Miss Texas. And my friends encouraged me. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And when I put my mind to something, Caroline, there's no stopping.
I can see that, girlfriend. I see it.
I go 100 miles an hour. So 2020 was the first year I was supposed to compete. And then COVID had it get canceled. And then 2021 came along, and it was such an amazing competition. I got second runner up. I got a little taste of what winning could feel like. And I prepared for that next year, the whole year. And then I got to meet you, and the rest is history.
That is crazy. So you literally just did your first pageant a year ago.
Yes. So this was only my second year.
Oh my God. That is insane. I know a lot of these girls have been trying to become Miss Texas for years, but again, it was just anointed because of how absolutely amazing you are. And like I was saying earlier, this pageant was so elevated and so philanthropy based. And how I was telling my friends was, it was not, they take the swimsuit out, which I think is needed to happen. It's a fitness. Do you agree with that?
Oh my gosh, 100%. I think it's important for someone to take care of their body, but the swimsuit, like I even feel uncomfortable in a bikini just in general. Sometimes I wear
walking on a stage in heels in a bikini is not going to be comfortable or natural for anyone.
And then let me get back to why I chose this pageant is because I wanted to elevate my voice with mental health and to open doors into how many people I could reach. And it really gives credibility behind everything you're saying in your mission. And now I have people reaching out to me to do speaking engagements when I used to reach out to them. And it's just an incredible opportunity to open doors for your platform.
And that's what was so fascinating and different about this pageant is I feel like other pageants, I know they're amazing, they're scholarship opportunities, but it can be a little bit self-promoting in a way. And so I how I told my friends about this pageant, I said, these women all are kind of at the top of their game in their philanthropy. And this is the way for them to raise awareness and to take it to the next level when their fundraising on Instagram and what they're doing in the community isn't enough. And that's incredible, especially with the amount that you have going on, that you would want to take this on to just elevate what you're saying. And that shows how dedicated you are to really letting people be aware of mental health.
Yeah. And that was the core of it. And then just around it, obviously the photo shoots and all the makeup and, the hair it's fun, right? And the clothes, but at the core, I saw this, it wasn't just a beauty pageant, it was an inner beauty pageant. And I thought that was so special.
You could see it, but everyone's insides match their outsides too. Everyone was so beautiful, and it's a really special thing, and you're just the perfect person. What are your goals for this pageant? What do you want to accomplish in the next year as Miss Texas?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm already hitting the ground running. I want to expand my speaking presentations, my mental health education programs. There's 3. So mental health 101, the resilience training, and then anti-bullying and like a positivity, kindness promoting presentation in schools. And I'm also doing it for adults. So parents.
Yeah, parents need it too, for sure.
Parents, and then like I did one for Girl Scout troop leaders so they could help their students, and then I'm going to continue to fundraise. So something I haven't mentioned is I've been like actively fundraising for suicide prevention programs for 4 years now. So I was an auction chairman for a Beacon of Hope luncheon. I was also an auction chairman for the Hope Party with the Grant Halliburton Foundation. So this year I'm going to continue to keep fundraising and raise even more for those critical prevention programs. And then I'm helping the Grant Halliburton Foundation launch a young professionals group. So the next age of people our age 20s and 30s who want to get involved and make a difference, and encouraging that, growing that this next year. And then going into bigger speeches and opportunities like the UT Dallas Walk. I really want to go back to my alma mater, Texas Tech, and do a speaking engagement on mental health for college students. So just so much in the pipeline. And then I'll also compete on the national stage in July against from every state and a couple countries.
And where does that pageant take place?
It's going to be in Tennessee in the middle of summer. So I'm getting all my like resort wear outfits ready. And
oh yeah. Oh my gosh. This is going to be so exciting. So what's that age group in Miss Texas? How old are these girls that you're competing against?
I believe it's 19 to 27.
Oh, wow.
It's a big range.
It's a big range. Yeah.
That's why the Miss Texas title specifically is so competitive, because it's a larger age range.
I didn't realize it was that big. Yeah, that's a big age range. Well, you've got everything going for you.
Thank you.
So I have a little segment I like to do called Playlist of My Life. And it's the songs that would be on the Kelsey Cameron playlist. Those can be songs that you remember from your childhood, songs that have gotten you through a rough time, songs that pump you up, put you in a great mood. Is there a song that you listen to before you have an interview? Do you have any songs off the top of your head that you can put on your playlist?
Oh my gosh, yes. And this is so funny that you brought this up, because there's 2 songs I was listening to right before I went in and interviewed with you. And these are one song is the one I always listen to before interviews to pump me up. It's called The Business by Tiesto.
Okay.
Let's get down to business. Yep. Yes. So I had a little mini dance party before I went in and interviewed with you to get the energy up. And then just for the pageant specifically, Halo by Beyonce.
Oh, that's good.
And I thought of my mom and who I was becoming, and just the light that I wanted to be. And that one, it honestly brought me to tears before I went in the interview room, of just like thinking of everything I am and who I want to be. And I just love that song.
Well, and a lot of what you're doing is paying homage to your mom, even though she's still here. And I think every step that you take, not to harp on this, but every step that you take in doing stuff like this is such a beautiful way to remember her by. And even though she's still with you, just keeping that going. And that's beautiful. Taking her with you everywhere. That's beautiful.
And thank you for saying that. And it's hard because she's out of her mind. She's not who she was, or she can't appreciate or understand what I've done now. And so I just think to myself, God, she would be so proud.
So proud. Yes, I know.
Even if I can't hear her like say that,
Of course, yes, and she would.
Another one. Okay, have you heard this song? It's called "Watch Me Shine" from the Legally Blonde soundtrack.
Oh, heck yes. Yes.
That one kills it.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And I feel like there's a little bit of Elle Woods in me, like that pretty girl that everyone underestimates me.
Yes.
Being in technology and software. They're like, what could you know? And I'm like, wait, let me show you, right?
Let me take the crown off real quick and explain it to you.
Yep. Put my business blazer on.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed. Those are great.
Without Me by Halsey, the Lenium remix.
Oh, yes.
So Halsey is my favorite artist ever. So after that breakup, I actually booked a trip to Paris to watch her live on Valentine's Day.
What?
And I got to see her front row, and she played Without Me. It was just like life-changing. Let me tell you.
That's a boss move to hop on a flight after a breakup to Paris and go see Halsey.
My best friend came with me.
Shut up. Tell me more about the best friend.
Oh my gosh, we just literally, with your perfect best friend trip to Paris you could ever imagine, just walking around with, croissants and baguettes and wine, and then going and seeing Moulin Rouge, and walking through the Louvre, seeing Halsey. It was the most perfect trip.
That's the way to get over a breakup, man. I think that's to be in a recipe card of how to get over a breakup.
Anytime I go through something, I book a trip for some reason. It's just like my way to get through things and get out of my space. And
where else have you traveled that you love to go to?
Oh my gosh, Italy's my favorite place in the world.
Yeah, it's so great.
Gosh, it's a goal of mine to own a home there one day and have it kind of as like a second home. I did a solo trip there for 2 weeks.
I love that.
Yeah, I went from Venice to Verona, saw the Letters to Juliet wall.
Oh my gosh.
Have you seen Letters to Juliet, the movie?
No, I haven't.
You have to watch it.
I've heard it's amazing.
Yes. And then I went down to the Amalfi Coast and then just spent the rest of the time there.
My best friend and I go to Capri almost every year. We haven't gone for 3 years, but yeah, that's our favorite.
When's your next trip? Can I be invited?
We're going to Greece this year. Yeah, come on, girl. We're trying to go to Capri, but it's so expensive. Everyone's trying to go. The secret's out on Capri.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're going to Greece this year.
Positano is also amazing.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. There's nothing better. I'm such a beach girl too. So give me the beach with the best Italian food of your life. Like, it does not get better than that to me.
Yeah, I have to go back because I feel like I didn't get enough of the authentic Italian food when I went. I fell through all the tourist traps.
Oh, that's easy to do. We got to hook up with our friend. Our friend Sarah is a travel agent, and she can hook you up with whatever you need. So I'll send you her info.
All right, Sarah, my new best friend.
Yeah, Sarah's your new bestie. She's your travel guru for sure. Okay, do you have any podcasts or books that you love that you're reading right now, or that you've read in the past that you always go back to?
Hi, sorry. Yes, my favorite is Crime Junkies. So this is good. Okay. Have you watched or heard of them?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh. So for those who don't know, it's a murder podcast. I am a true crime junkie. I literally listen to it before bed, and it's worth the nightmares.
Okay, this is a very strange question that I've never asked on this podcast. What is your favorite murder?
Okay.
We all have the true crime junkies. I'm one too. We all have our favorite murder.
Richard Kuklinski.
Kuklinski.
You don't know who Richard Kuklinski is?
What's the story?
The Iceman. He was literally like a hitman for hire. He killed hundreds of people, but in like really grotesque and mean ways. You need to, I'll send you the link to the Iceman, the book.
Okay. Was this in the 70s?
I think so, actually, or the 70s or the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like a
Why
gangster
do they call the
hitman for
Iceman?
hire. And it was people hired him for like when they wanted to kill someone in a really torturous way. People are gonna think I'm
No, we all have our favorite. I'll tell you mine so that you don't seem like a weirdo because I have my
yeah.
I really Robert Durst is everything to me. He's fascinating. Do you know about Robert Durst?
No,
Did you not watch the Jinx?
no.
Kelsey.
Okay, we both have
You have homework. Watch
yeah.
the Jinx on HBO.
Jinx. Okay.
The actions that happened in the Jinx in this documentary led to him being put in prison.
Wow.
So he outed himself on this documentary. It's insane. You will love it. And this all happened. He passed away, I think 3 months ago, about a month after he was sentenced. So go look at Robert Durst. There's a lot of stuff on Robert Durst.
You got it. There's also apparently a serial killer in Dallas right now.
Oh no.
I know there's like bodies popping up around White Rock Lake.
That's scary.
I know.
Would you ever be a true crime podcaster?
Honestly, I would love to be like a featured one for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I almost want to kind of start investigating.
I was gonna say you would be really good at that. You should start seeing what's going on in Dallas and start just writing it down.
I think I may have been a detective in a past life.
I like that.
Right?
That's good. And that makes you good with your dating too, because nothing gets past you, I'm sure.
Not anymore. I'll tell you. Yep.
So do you have any books that you've been reading that you like, or any audiobooks or books that define you?
I don't know I don't read very much. I know that's kind of a bad thing, right? Like a lot of people say my favorite book is honestly Iceman or gosh, yeah. I don't know. I'm not much of a book reader.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You're busy you've got other stuff that you're doing, so we'll excuse it. Do you have any life hacks, any productivity hacks, any sort of routines that you do? I know you're traveling a lot and it's hard to kind of have that structure you need. I know you do yoga, but what do you do on your day to day that kind of keeps you grounded?
Good question. I love to get up early. Like I'm a morning person.
What time do you get up?
4:30.
Oh, dang, you're one of those.
I am one of those. Sometimes I sleep in a little longer, but I love to start my morning by working out, right? And just having, a cup of coffee, water, and then also every day I like to say positive affirmations to myself in the mirror. And when you start out doing this, you feel really silly, but then watch the difference it makes.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge believer in it.
Yeah, you are.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think affirmations are part of manifesting. I think if you want to manifest what you want, you have to be feeding yourself those positive affirmations all day,
Absolutely. And then I think doing more of what you love. It sounds so cliche, but like for me, if I don't have a trip booked or I'm not like experiencing a new culture, new surroundings, then I just feel really stuck in my ways. So listening to what you need, everyone is unique and they have different needs, doing more of what you love and what, God has called you to do in this life.
I love that. That's wonderful. Okay. I have 2 more things before we wrap up. I know you, like we've talked about, you're adamant that you don't want your story to define you, but you're going to continue to share your story. What I asked you this in your interview. I asked what your mission statement of your life was, but I also want to know, how do you want people to remember you?
Okay. Also, first off, the mission statement was like the best question ever. I don't even remember what I said, but I remember it being so good. And I was like, I wish I had written that down because there's no
Your
way.
Your answer was amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Could never tell you what it was again. But what I want people to remember me for is being a beacon of hope and being a beacon of light and being someone that you can go to and then you leave feeling better. Like you leave feeling happiness, and to know that I made a positive difference in people's lives. And when people think of me, just that I truly made a difference.
Well, you're doing it, especially what I cannot wait to see what you're going to do with the colleges and talking to these people, because there's so many people that will be directly affected like that. I know sometimes if you're just constantly retelling your story, you can kind of feel like, is this doing anything? But people that are impressionable, especially kids and college kids who really are seeking those answers, those are people you're directly touching. And that's just incredible. And I want you to keep it up, obviously.
I think opening up, like even with my close friends, they've shared things with me that I've known them for years and I'm just finding out about them. I hope that me being open helps others be open about their stories. We all have a story. We've all been through things. And if you start to open up about it, that's when you start to heal. And that's when you can become your best self.
Well, vulnerability. Are you into Brene Brown at all? Do you know Brene Brown?
No.
She's an incredible therapist, and you need to look her up. But her last book is about vulnerability and how it's the biggest thing that we have, and it's the thing that we share the least of. And I agree. I think leading by example, by being vulnerable, will make people be more comfortable around you and be able to be more vulnerable with others. So you're leading by example.
Oh.
My last question, what keeps you, this is called the Keep Looking Up podcast. What keeps you looking up?
Being my best self and knowing that I still have so much more that I can accomplish, that this is just the beginning, and that really our potential is endless. And it's exciting to know that, I'm 26 years old. This is all I've done so far, but what am I going to do the next 26 years?
You've got a big life ahead of you, especially with what you're dedicated to. And I just cannot wait to see all the things you accomplish. And you have been so inspiring for me. And I know you'll be so inspiring for other people that you're meeting. And I know this year is going to be a big year for you. And I just know that the impact you're going to have is just going to be absolutely amazing. And I thank you for being dedicated to your vulnerability and to sharing your story, because it really is so helpful for everyone.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. You're so amazing. It's just been such a joy to start to get to know you. And I hope that this is just the beginning of many conversations. And
Same.
Yeah, you're amazing.
Before I let you go, pimp yourself out, give everyone your Instagram handle, tell them where they can find you.
Yes, Kelsey Cameron. My Instagram handle is KelsCam with 2 M's, KELSCAMM. Follow me. I share a lot of mental health postings. Would love for anyone in the area to come to the UT Dallas Suicide Prevention Walk on April 30th. And then just follow along for other opportunities for you to get involved with mental health organizations.
Amazing. Kelsey, I am obsessed with you. Thank you so much for coming on. I know you're so busy, so I really appreciate you taking the time. And keep looking up, y'all, because that's where it all is.
Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe and rate Keep Looking Up anywhere you stream your podcasts. And to stay up to date on all my latest episodes, you can follow at KLU Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or on my website at carolinekraddick.com. And always remember, keep looking up, because that's where it all is.